So for more on this, I'm joined by a bond market specialist who's been in the industry for more than 20 years now. Georg Grodzki is head of credit research at Legal & General Investment Management, which oversees £350 billion in assets. He joins me now live from Berlin. I just want to start by asking you about the latest speculation, I could say the latest talk that's been swirling around Greece's debt situation over the past few days. I mean, from what you've been hearing, and you know, it has been pretty confusing at times, but from what you've been hearing, does it look like we're heading towards more cash for Greece?
We're heading towards more cash, but this is going to be a bumpy road. Greece is finding itself seemingly unable to meet the targets set by the package and the program which was agreed a year ago, and it will need more money much sooner than was originally anticipated. And it's really questionable whether European taxpayers should bankroll Greece on an ongoing basis, because we can no longer safely assume that what Greece is asking for is a temporary transitional aid. It seems as if they have a structural problem, and is it really the task of the Eurozone members to fund each other's permanent ongoing deficits? So therefore we have to carefully think about what we're doing here, because the EMU and the EU's future could be at stake if over time those claims accumulate and at some point it becomes clear that the transfer union has crept in through the back door.
Okay, so you said Greece might need those funds sooner than we think. How soon are we talking about, and roughly how much?
Well, originally it was assumed that A, Greece will meet its deficit reduction targets, which it didn't, and number two, it was assumed that it can tap the private debt markets by, say, March 2012, a year from now. That seems very unlikely as of this stage. So the combination of the two, Greeks' access to bond markets remaining closed, and B, the deficits, the ongoing deficit being much higher, means that between, say, March next year and March 2013, they will probably need an extra 60 billion, if not a little bit more than that, from other sources, unless the private sector debt holders agree to at least extending their maturities, which would greatly relieve the burden for the European taxpayer when it comes to the inevitable restructuring, which at the moment the market assumes to happen at some point in 2013. So the accumulation of claims from other European countries, i.e. other European taxpayers, to Greece is obviously increasing at a much faster pace than anticipated, and would do so certainly if private debt holders were to be bailed out further by the governments in the EU.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, you know, concerns and particularly the domestic opposition that Angela Merkel is having to deal with when it comes to providing extra funds to Eurozone countries, and that is something to consider. But would a debt restructuring end up hurting more than providing additional funds to Greece?
That is the $60 billion question. There are very wide-ranging opinions on this. The view which I would personally subscribe to is that a debt restructuring has been so widely anticipated now for at least 12 months, if not longer, that the market would stomach that shock, so to say. It would not have anything remotely like the Lehman-style repercussions. It would certainly be cheaper for the European taxpayer if there's a debt restructuring now than it would be if the debt restructuring, which is inevitable, as I said, is postponed until 2013 or even later, but it's going to happen. So the markets should be able to get over this. It is very well priced in the current Greek bond prices, and therefore the element of surprise would be fairly limited. Let's not forget, Greece is not a counterparty to thousands of other market participants, as for example Lehman was, and therefore we're not talking about a financial institution with trillions of derivative contracts to fulfill. So therefore the chances are the market would get over it and move on, and the contagion for other European countries, namely Portugal and Spain, would be manageable. What we of course have to be watching very closely is what is the EU going to do about Portugal. This weekend is going to be crucial. The expectation in the market is that Portugal's aid package will be waved through. If that's the case, then the contagion from a Greek debt restructuring for other European countries such as Ireland and Portugal should indeed be very limited, and that should make it easier for the politicians to pursue that course of action. Painful as it is, but again, the pain would be even higher if it was to be postponed.
And Georg, if I could get your view on one more thing, just reports coming into us, and we've heard murmurings on this before. German Chancellor Angela Merkel reported as saying in the Die Zeit newspaper that she would back Mario Draghi as she could back him as ECB president, Mario Draghi. How do you think that might play into all of this?
It's likely that there is a bit of horse trading going on, and Germany is in a bit of a delicate position. On the one hand, it wants to be a good European citizen and show solidarity when appropriate. On the other hand, the German government does have a responsibility to the European taxpayer. It is bound by the German constitution, and also it has to bear in mind that over time it is unhealthy for the EMU and the EU if transfers become a standing element of that union, because they are politically very explosive, and as we have seen in Finland, taxpayers don't like to pay for others' basically profligacy, and therefore one has to tread a very fine line here. I would say the German government is trying to maneuver through this conundrum of issues, and naturally it will probably address the issue of the ECB presidency in the same discussions as it is also addressing the issue of Greece, because let's face it, the ECB is becoming the biggest creditor to Greece as we speak, basically, and therefore the ECB and Greece are very closely related issues for that reason as well, and therefore it's natural that all these items are on the agenda and possibly discussed in a packaged style, even though it's a bit counterintuitive at first glance to do so.
Yeah, it certainly does seem to be a conundrum of very complex issues, as you say. Georg Grodzki, thank you so much for your time, your analysis. Great to talk to you.